Welcome to the Sit and Bent podcast. Today it's going to be a good one for sure. And you know, when the boys won't tell me something until the podcast turns on, it's going to be a good one. So we have this new deal with Will. Will needs deals because
I like deals. I like wheeling and dealing things.
The best part is that Will invented this deal all by
The
himself.
responsibility mustache. I love it. It's
So-
warm.
maybe you guys are familiar with the concept of training braids. So in martial arts, you would do a training braid, and if you went a day without training, then you would cut your braid. So if you have a really long kind of pigtail, that means that you've been training martial arts for a very long time. That's why Anakin Skywalker has one until he,
That's what that is?
yeah, that's why he has
What
the little
the
rat
devil?
tail.
I always thought that was the weirdest hairstyle ever. I didn't know what that was.
It's a training braid, man.
Yeah,
Oh.
man, it's a training
I
braid.
actually didn't know that either.
That's
At least,
pretty
well,
cool.
I mean, I've heard of the training. I didn't realize
Yeah.
that was the Star Wars thing.
Because right when he starts, being a Padawan, he kind of starts it at the end of the Phantom Menace, and then it just gets longer and longer until he turns to the dark side.
Yep.
Oh,
And
no.
then he gets all of his hair burnt off.
Yeah.
So the moral of the story here is that Will has decided that his mustache is the mustache of responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And if he does something irresponsible, then he has to shave it off.
Mm-hmm.
So I think our first order of business here today is to debate whether or not Will has to shave his mustache.
I didn't want to tell you guys this at all. It was an
That doesn't make it more
undercover mission.
responsible.
It was an undercover mission. Katie let it slip. We were out with dinner with Ethan, and she just let it slip. What I was trying to
What
keep
did you
a secret.
do?
So I'll explain a little more pre-story before Will or backstory there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we went snow biking, and so Will and I were snow biking. Katie was on a snowmobile, and then we went out to dinner afterward. And I was trying to talk Will into buying a snow bike, and in the process of that conversation.
Well, no, you were like, we should go bouldering.
Well, that
And
too, but I was
like,
also thinking about
looking
going
at
to Spokane.
Katie, I
That's
was
right.
like, I had this whole plan set up.
She's like, oh, yeah, we don't have plans tomorrow. And Will's like, it's Sunday. Like, wink, wink. And
Oh.
I was like, what's Sunday got to do with anything? And he
Yeah.
kept like trying to get her to understand. And then, I mean, he could have still just not told me.
Yeah,
But
but
he decided
What did you do?
I still don't want to tell you, but
he bought an R1.
yeah.
So you bought the fastest motorcycle you could buy.
Yeah. The fastest one I could get my hands on. It was such a good deal. I just could not pass it up.
So what did you get?
That's a 2009 R1, one owner, 7,000 miles, original plastics, never raced, OEM, like everything. It's like perfect. Perfect. Like this man just bought it and just let it sit there for a lot of years. And then I came and gathered it for very cheap.
How much?
$5,500. And they're usually like 10 grand. So
Well, it's a lot of horsepower for $5,500.
yeah.
It's also a lot of horsepower for January in a place where it snows a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Have you driven it?
Yeah, I drove it in Portland a little bit. It was really nice. But yeah, no, this was supposed to be like a Black Ops mission. Like I had it all planned out. I was going to hide it from everyone in my life.
You don't even have a garage. Where is it? Just sitting in the snow?
No, at 5 o'clock in the morning today, I think, I put it in Katie's parents' garage.
This doesn't
They haven't
doesn't
found
really
out yet. But it's
sound
in
like
there.
a whole responsible situation,
Yeah, I
does
don't
it?
know, but make sure you're talking to your microphone. Will.
Okay, yeah.
You can bring it towards you a bit if you.
Yeah,
that
it's on
makes
this
it
long
better.
extendable thing.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
But I don't think just buying the bike is irresponsible. If anything, it was such a good deal, you could flip it, and that would be a very responsible thing to do.
He's not
That
going
would
to do
be
that, though.
so responsible.
I told him the responsible decision would have been to buy a 450 that he could supermoto, and then in the winter, it could be
Yeah.
a snow bike.
That's what you're talking about. You were like, oh, yeah, I'll just get a supermoto because then I'll be
Yeah.
forced to drive slow.
See, that.
But
So,
you would not believe, like, I had this whole situation planned out. Like, late at night one night, I just, like, woke up with this thought in my mind. I was like, I need an R1 right now. And I started looking, and I found this man, and he had this premium R1. And when I met him in person, he was like, sorry, my headphones are a little low right now, but I can't really hear myself. But when I met this guy in person, he was like, I knew you're the one that needed this R1. This is your bike.
So this guy knew who you were?
He just like knew that I was the one that needed the bike.
It sounds like he's just a good salesman, Will.
No, I'm a good swindler because this man had like hundreds of messages. He offered me the cheapest price, and he was like, I don't know what it is about you, man, but I just knew you needed this bike.
You are very charismatic and lovable.
Yeah, and it just, it was very nice. So he had it listed up in the summertime. I wanted it when I crashed my other bike. In the hospital, I messaged him, and I'm like, hey, I just crashed my bike. Is this bike still for sale? And he was like, yeah, but he was running into title problems with it and stuff, and so he just took it down, and then it went back up, and I was like, this is the time, but I don't have a truck. So I talked to my buddy Davey, and he runs like a snowmobile business and stuff.
Snowmobile.
I don't know what you call it, but like he puts sand on people's driveways and like makes it safe to drive places.
Nice.
And he has like a very manly truck. And so I helped him like sand driveways early at the crack of dawn on Sunday. And then we just took the truck with all the sand in it and went and picked up an R1 and had a really good time in Portland. And then on the way back, they closed the highways on us. So I just came from the highways of Portland, Oregon to grind hard this morning.
Really?
Yeah.
You look well rested somehow.
Now this is where you're really losing it because
but
that is not a responsible decision.
Well, no, we didn't know. We
I know,
left
I'm just
responsible and stuff, but we got stuck out there because there was over 100 semis just in the middle of the highway, and it looked like a city from far away. Like you could see the lights in the clouds.
What the heck?
And then there was no way to like, and here's where the responsibility takes a little dip, okay? But it's not that bad. Davey has like this really cool blinky light. Like it looks really official. Like it's like one of those snowplow lights. And so we needed to get to an exit backwards down the highway, like a good long way, like a mile down the highway to get onto another road to get us out of there. And so we finagled our way around, turned around, grabbed a couple like swindlers with rear wheel drive cars and stuff and was like, follow us down the highway the wrong way. We'll get you out of here. And we just started driving the other way down the highway, found a road. Like, that road was really swindly. There was all this ice and stuff. We were out there for so long. Like, yeah.
I ran into sleep last night?
I can't really disclose that on this podcast.
I think it's
just, no. No, I really tried.
I think Ethan brought his shaver just in case.
No!
I think that buying a bike isn't irresponsible, but you probably have noticed ever since you bought your Honda that can't go over 4,000 RPM, I don't track you on Life 360 anymore.
Yeah. Pretty nice.
I'm turning back on my Life 360 subscription right now.
Oh, no. Oh, man.
All
right, Will, I'm literally tracking you.
See, and the deal was that he couldn't speed on the way to work. But see, now I feel like for the responsibility mustache, we can't tell you what to do on the weekends, but we can shave off your mustache if you go, say, 180 miles an hour on the weekend.
How fast will that bike go on the highway?
About 180 miles an hour right now, but it's like completely all stock. Once I put the nice exhaust on it and stuff, it will go a little faster. So, but I'm not planning on reaching any speeds like that.
Oh, really?
No. It's just so cool. It's really cool. It matches my suit, and it's just really cool. So
your Life 360 isn't even on.
You got to turn that on, man.
It's been off for a while.
Yeah, well, you got to turn it on
the
now.
Honda experience. But yeah, we just loaded it up, got it into Katie's parents' garage. I still don't know if they know it's in there, but
Wait, your girlfriend's parents don't know that you put a new motorcycle in
no,
her
we
garage?
were like crafting late at night. We showed up in this diesel truck and like slowly rolled it into their garage, and it's just in there.
Does this bike at least have a title?
Yep, clean title, one owner.
Okay. I mean, I
Plastic.
don't think that's irresponsible just to buy the bike, but you're turning on your Life 360 after this podcast. And you could lose your mustache at any moment. Just be aware of the
I
situation.
agree, because you could buy the bike and just have it in your garage and look at it, and that's not irresponsible. But
and drive
first-
it like normally.
the first
around.
time it goes triple digits, unless you're on a track where that's legal,
Oh,
The mustache is gone.
mustache be gone.
For real, I spent so long growing this mustache.
Yeah, you've been at it since your trip in November, right?
Yep.
Wow, that's so funny.
I haven't trimmed it at all.
It's a 2-month mustache right there.
Wow.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Of
How long have you been
responsibility.
working on your mustache, Steven?
Oh, I was born with this mustache.
Oh.
Yes, that is what they say on the streets.
No,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I've shaved it for.
Oh,
I don't know.
yeah.
Have you ever seen me without a mustache, Ethan? You would remember
I
better
mean,
than Ed.
yeah,
then.
when I met you when you were 16, you
Oh,
had
okay.
you
Yeah.
had basically no mustache, but
Yeah.
Um,
But
It's
since
been
then-
12,
but
13 years.
you've trimmed it. You've trimmed it back enough that it doesn't.
Yeah.
I should just let it go for 13 years and see what happens. But I usually tell people that I trim it when it reaches my eyelashes
Mm,
because I don't want it to get in my eyes if I get in some high winds.
yeah. Oh, speaking of Will's Honda, the other night I was playing Fortnite with your account, and I turned my mic on, and it was your girlfriend playing on your account. And I was like,
She does that
"Oh,
all the time.
where's Will?" And she was like, "Oh, he's cleaning Subaru grease out of his Honda." And I was like, "How did he do that? Do you want to tell the good people how you did that?"
Yeah, so when I was moving out of my shop, I put all my Subaru grease in the back of the ute because I used it to move out.
Translation: used engine oil
Yeah, used.
in 5-gallon buckets
Yeah. And
with the lids not
so I had
actually on, just
about
sitting.
15 gallons of Subaru oil, and I finally took it out of the ute and put it in my Honda Civic and forgot about it for months, like 2 months. And I'm driving around, I'm like rushing to get on this boat that Katie works on, and someone pulls out in front of me, and I slam on the brakes, and I just hear goosh, 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 goosh.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, oh no, it's the Subaru grease. And I like start seeing it like filter in because it was in the back of the car, and I see it like filter in and I smell it. And I'm like, oh, and I get out in traffic and open the trunk and it's like dripping out. And I'm like, oh man. So, and that day it was supposed to be like negative temperatures. It was just supposed to be terrible, but I decided to take it to the car wash and pressure wash the entire interior of my car, so it's really clean now.
Yeah.
But on that day, it froze like a block of ice. Like, thankfully it was the weekend, so I just like let it run for hours with the heater on. It kind of dried itself out.
What's
But,
funny about this is I was on that boat waiting for
Oh,
Will.
really?
Because Katie was like, can you get a hold of him? Like, his phone isn't working again. And I was just already on this boat because Katie got us all on, and it was a great experience. But I was like waiting for Will, so I'm on the balcony of the boat, like looking for him. I figured I'd recognize him because he was running late. I figured I'd see him like running down to the boats. And then I finally do see him, and he looks all distraught. And you were supposed to bring Katie lunch. The reason you didn't bring Katie lunch is because you spilled oil all over your car.
All over. It was terrible.
Because you had 15 gallons of
Yeah,
used oil
and they all
in 5-gallon buckets, and the lids were not snapped on. They were
Yeah.
just sitting on top of the bucket.
So you could have just snapped it on and avoided the whole situation.
Probably, yeah.
Or he could have just,
Taking
taken him to
out.
be recycled
Yeah.
like the day that
Yeah.
he took him away.
To be fair, though, Subaru oil is kind of like, that was like very contaminated oil. So I was just having a hard time. At
Oh, yeah.
first, I was like planning on taking it somewhere. But I realized I was like super contaminated with coolant and a whole bunch of stuff. So I was like, where do I put this? I'm just going to have to make a scene. I'm going to have to make a big bonfire or something.
I think they'll take oil that has coolant in it. They just can't take it if it has gas or
Oh, yeah.
stuff in it because it gets very volatile.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong on that, but
Yeah, that stuff was just super gross. And to have it in my car, it was like the grossest. That stuff smells not like oil. It had like bacteria in it, so it just smelled really bad.
Oh.
Yeah.
well, it was sitting in the back of the ute for like
Yeah.
6
and it
months or
got-
something.
Yeah, it was really bad. So,
Yeah.
mhm.
I guess now it's in a car wash somewhere.
Yep. They had to go somewhere.
Good job, Will.
But I did take a lot of towels. The responsibility part of me, I took like a bunch of towels and like soaked most of it up, and then I used the vacuum cleaner and probably destroyed it, but vacuum cleaned up the rest of the oil and then washed it. So
I mean, at least the vacuum stuff is going to be filtered in some way. The rest of it is just
I didn't just
in
like
the environment
wash it
now.
all the way down the drain, but like most of it leaked out on the way there, so it was like.
Well, car washes do have oil water separators. I
you've
learned this
that.
recently.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
So at least there's that.
if you want a drain in your garage, then you need a $22,000 oil water separator. That's what they told me.
Yep.
it's probably good because people like me are gonna come by and just
Just yoink. It
But
makes
if
a
you
lot
just
of
spill
sense.
oil in your shop and then sweep the water and oil and stuff outside, nobody
free.
cares. I'm not saying that's what you should do, but technically, like you're right though. They do. I learned that somewhere recently too. That if you put a drain in your floor in your shop, you have to have an oil water separator.
I wanted to do that in my shop, and then they were like, "This is how much it is just for the device, let alone getting approval from the city
And
costs money and all
installation
this
and-
stuff."
yeah.
I was like, "Nope, I'm gonna have the most simple shop you've ever even seen in your life. It might not even have walls, just a nice roof."
Oh, by the way, I actually saw on Marketplace this morning a steel structure kit like this that somebody bought and didn't put up.
Really?
It's a smaller. It was a 30 by 40, and it's a standard gable roof, not a single pitch. But they only wanted 35 grand for the whole kit.
You should send that in my DMs, man.
Yeah,
Just see
I mean,
what's
it's
up.
not bad. I mean, for a whole,
Yeah.
it's the same brand as this actually. Which
Wow.
I don't recommend the company in dealing with them, but the
Oh.
product is good.
Yeah. How much was yours just for the steel?
Like 90,000 with the insulation and doors. It
It's
doesn't
like-
have windows and doors, so that would add. You'd have to add those in. But
And you have the nice roof and the backfill and like.
well,
a
and the
bunch of
overhangs
stuff.
add a lot. I did overhangs on this,
Oh.
and they normally don't have overhangs.
Yeah.
really they're just like a square.
Yeah, that's the standard issue, and it was like an extra 10 grand just for overhangs. So
Really? Wow.
gosh.
That's
So,
worth it, though.
but anyway, it's in like Coeur d'Alene. It's the whole kit. I think he said the walls are blue and the roof is dark gray or something like that. Metal. Anyway,
Interesting.
I'll
Just a
look
thought.
into it. I have a interesting car update, I
Oh.
guess. So the Tesla was like on its last leg, like hardly working at all. And that's what I daily drive, obviously. And so the just words out there on the internet and what I've heard is like the Tesla dealer people are like really kind of strict and like brick cars all the time and like don't help you in certain situations. But
especially if you have a totaled car that was bought at auction.
yeah, so our car is salvage title, not recertified, lifted, holes in it, whatever. And I was like, okay, I'll see if they'll replace my battery, but because it's like a special Tesla thing. And then
To be fair, to be clear, not the big battery,
Yeah,
just the
the
little
12
12-volt
volt.
one that runs the accessories.
and the windshield. I figured maybe they'll do the windshield. So we brought it to the garage, removed the roll cage, brought it down there. I was expecting, like, we had GoPros going. Will came with me. We were
It was a
expecting like
big thing.
a confrontation thing that we'd like put in a video. Whatever happens, happens. You know, we were preparing for that, but nothing happened. They were like, "Oh, this is awesome. This is so cool. How did you lift it?" Like they had me pull out the hood pins and show them where you put the radiators and stuff. Like they were so stoked. And then one of them had seen it on Instagram. He's like, "I was wondering if you guys were going to come in. I knew you were from around here." And then he like ran across this giant warehouse and got someone else and showed him the car. Like everyone was so stoked. And then on the phone, they told me that it's a fee to get it recertified. They run these tests on the battery to see if it can supercharge. But they said there's no reason that car, even with its ridiculous modifications, like you didn't modify the powertrain at all, did you? And I was like, no. They're like, yeah, as long as your battery is okay, we could reinstate it for supercharging.
Did you do that, or they have to go back
It's
for a different appointment?
It's a different appointment.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
it could cost between like up to $2,000 depending on how things go.
What does that
Why,
mean?
wait, why would it be?
I
up
thought it
to,
was
like, what are they gonna have to do that would
$300.
cost $1,000?
It's like the test. The first test is like $300,
Oh,
and
if
if
they have to
that
keep
doesn't
doing
work,
more.
they don't charge you. But if that works, then they need to test some other stuff and test some other stuff.
So it just kind of goes down.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's a $2,000 test for that because they're going to have to check all of the things.
They're going to have to.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like I think he said, like, I got to see what the price is right now, which would probably be worth it if we lived somewhere that there even were superchargers.
Right. Well, or if we plan on selling it, which we've talked about, because
then someone could supercharge it,
which would make it a lot more valuable to them.
What is the closest supercharger? Is it Spokane?
It's by the Target in Coeur d'Alene.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And that's a big one there, too. And then there's a huge one in Liberty Lake at the service center. And then there's even that one, like, really nice one at that jank gas station kind of by Ritzville.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So you could, if we got that car enabled for supercharging, you'd need to make more stops than someone with a regular Tesla. But we could, like, drive that thing to Seattle easy.
Yeah. I mean,
if we had
just a bunch of
supercharging.
stops and charging.
Yeah. So it could be.
Its range is not what it used to be.
Yeah, the lift and the rock sliders and just the whole front end is completely open.
Like the whole
The
part
roll
of the car that's
cage, everything.
supposed to be aerodynamic is gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
We ruined all of its aerodynamics.
But it's been so cold here recently that you guys will see it in a forthcoming Grindhard video, but they loaned me a very nice card. We had some fun with it while we had it. I'll leave it at that. I don't want to spoil the video. But yeah, it was really nice. It's been like the coldest ever in 20 years, has it been, Ethan?
Yeah, I mean, probably more than that, but I've lived here for 20, basically, we'll call it 25 years now, and I've never seen it this cold. It was at the house here. It was, you guys trying to get a LaCroix sponsorship?
I am.
Yeah, let's do that.
Is that would look like a very product placement way
I
of
should
doing that.
switch the logo towards the camera.
Yeah.
The thing is sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no, you're fine.
I've put so many hours into trying to get us a sparkling water sponsorship, you guys wouldn't believe.
I would believe, actually.
Like, I've talked to every single one. LaCroix, the people that own LaCroix.
What?
Like,
And they won't give you a sponsorship? You're like their
No.
biggest fan.
not even free
Wait,
product.
weren't we making some progress with Liquid Death?
Yeah, I thought Liquid Death offered us free product.
Yeah, and then they were being weird about, like, sending them specific Facebook content and, like, stuff, and, like, which we do for a fee, but
Right.
it's just we can't do things like that really anymore because it competes with other
Right.
deals.
Yeah.
So it's like it was kind of going somewhere, but yeah. And I was like, hey, just send us like a
Case of sparkling water. Yeah.
yeah. And like I think what they were offering was kind of just like a box of like 6.
What? That's like $4.
That
Well, I
devil.
mean, Liquid Death is
Yeah.
kind of expensive, but still.
Yeah. I think that's what it is. I think that so many people are willing to do like
Really
a lot
small.
of work for free
Right.
that there's no point in them like
It's
trying
just
to
funny when
sponsor
they'll
our
send
podcast.
people like, thousands of dollars worth of parts or tools and stuff for like hardly any, not really expect much in response. Like sparkling water, which is so cheap. It's whatever.
Yeah.
It's just funny.
We did recently lose a brand deal
Oh,
because
Which one?
we're too dangerous.
What?
Too
wait, for
dangerous.
which?
It was but we haven't done anything dangerous in so long.
Who the devil? How did we lose?
What was it for?
It was like a very normal thing that like sponsors a ton of YouTube videos, like it was like a VPN or like Skillshare or something like that.
Well, those ones are weirdly like the most
Yeah, specific.
persnickety.
Yeah. But when
Did
is
they,
the
like-
last time we did anything dangerous?
Every day. By
But,
most people's
like-
standards, literally just me existing in this shop is dangerous.
I mean, like, but
The 100-mile challenge.
What?
that's
Like,
not.
That was very
dangerous.
safe.
Yeah, I mean,
Uh-huh.
I guess when Will rolled the Chang Li and put his head through the window and he wasn't wearing
Could
a
have
helmet,
been a little dangerous.
yeah, it was pretty dangerous.
yeah.
Or when we
Just a-
towed Steven in the go-kart.
Yeah, I mean, literally every video, there's
Yeah.
something that people would consider. When I rolled this chopper down the hill and ran into the fence, like
dangerous.
to us, it's normal, and to a
Yeah.
lot of people who watch, also,
It's
it's normal.
normal.
But to insurance companies and executives, it's
Yeah.
dangerous.
what
I
was I probably won't actually say the name because they did sponsor us in the end. I don't want to give them a bad name, but remember when we were trying to get a sponsor and they responded and it was like, we don't want to be associated with Red Bull drinking hooligans.
Yeah. Red Bull long-haired Red Bull drinking daredevils.
Daredevils, that's the word.
Yep.
Yeah.
They ended up coming around and they were stoked with the sponsorship, but it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
The way because Will's the only one of us who drinks Red Bull.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The rest of us don't even drink any energy drinks.
True. Steven doesn't even drink caffeine.
I've started slowly reintroducing caffeine in the format of tea.
Isn't it
I've been
nice?
It's
drinking
one
some
of
tea.
the best things
I remembered
you can
why
do.
people like caffeine,
Yeah.
but like very slowly and responsibly. I almost
Yeah.
had a year off of caffeine. It was nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Wow.
I think that probably the most dangerous thing we did this summer was when we towed you. in the
By
go-kart.
far.
Oh, for
Because
sure.
To give the listeners an example of what was going on that day, perfect recipe for disaster. Ethan wasn't working, and us three were all together starting a new project. Perfect
No,
recipe.
I was working. I was just in the shop working
Yeah,
on
he
stuff.
was
I
in the
wasn't-
shop.
I wasn't
We were
participating in your shenanigans. but
unsupervised.
It's when we finished the go-kart that you were...
That I wasn't. Yeah.
Okay. But, yeah, I was thinking, I guess the way my brain works is not, let's do this the safest, most common sense way. It's
I mean,
kind of like...
none of us, our brain works
Yeah.
that way, but
It's like, how can we have the most amount of fun moving the go-kart Will bought 50 feet to the garage?
Well, and to be the most entertaining. And your idea was great. I just didn't know you guys were going to actually go full throttle. I was kind of saying that for the cameras. I'm like, hit it full throttle, man. I didn't think you guys would listen.
You told me to tell Edwin, hit it full throttle. So
Yeah.
I think we've already talked about this. Maybe it was in the video, but I just can't believe that all the things Steven, we call him Safety Steve. He's by far the most concerned about safety out of all of us and is generally intimidated by the things we build and doesn't really want to ride most of them, which is fair. Most of the stuff we build is suicidal and Steven doesn't have the experience drive. But he chose to sit in this go-kart and be towed with Will driving or Edwin?
Me.
With Edwin driving the K-truck and just like with no control over his situation whatsoever, just sits in a go-kart being yoinked around the yard.
I had
Yeah.
some semblance of steering for part of the time.
Yeah, but that's not control because
No.
if they choose to do something, you're just along for the ride.
connected.
Yeah, well, and they chose to do a lot of things because
Yeah.
I thought we were going to go like fast for the straightaway and turn and go into the garage. And then you guys turned the opposite way out the driveway and then hit it even faster. And I was like,
we did the whole entire rally track, and the go-kart is a race go-kart, not an off-road go-kart.
no
it has about
suspension.
An inch of ground clearance.
half a LaCroix can width. See that wink?
Yeah, that was good product placement right there.
See, I'm just showing the people what we could do. But that's how tall it is about half this can sideways, not very tall. And there's these giant roots on the rally track and rocks. And so I kind of babied it at first, and Steven was like, oh yeah, this is fine. And I was like, okay. So I did the rally track as fast as I was comfortable as a driver of a 6-wheel drive, fully independent suspension vehicle.
I
which
could
was
not
quite
escape.
Fast. Yeah. And there was a 6-year-old here, Finn.
Yeah, Finn's
How old
really
is Finn?
cool.
He's like 5 or 6, and this child knew that what we were doing was a bad idea.
He basically said anything that Edwin or I came up with was a bad idea. Like he looked
Very
at the
responsible
watercraft, the project that should not be named.
Why did you even bring this up, Will?
He
None of us
looked at
want to
the-
think about
he
it
looked
ever
at the
again.
watercraft and he said, "What is that?" It was like, "That's not gonna float."
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, we should hire this kid
We
as a
should.
consultant.
Yeah, he could be a consultant.
Yeah, but I did see we were onto something.
Mm-hmm.
Someone posted a YouTube video 3 months ago of making a raft thing out of the same pipes. That was a fishing thing. That was a whole truck with full truck size wheels, and it floats.
It had about 300 times the tubing though that you guys tried for the watercraft.
But the idea was solid.
The idea was
Tubes.
building an amphibious go-kart with stuff from Home Depot. And those were the biggest tubes we could find at Home Depot.
but you only put 2 of them.
It wasn't executed well, which is one of the.
The original concept was a good idea.
Yeah,
because
we can still do it in the spring.
Yeah, he went
No,
fishing.
please.
No, this is our only video ever besides the electric tank that we didn't actually do. But the electric tank we still posted because we thought it was possible before.
We crafted,
And we
a
might
whole
still
project.
do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We might revisit that with a slightly different approach. So
I'm surprised how much we still get comments about that.
the tank,
Yeah. I think the people that subscribed for that thing are the people. And we've been resurfacing a lot of it because of the electric go-kart series we've been doing. I think that brings those people in that want to see like really fast electric stuff. Which
Well,
the
and-
tank would be really cool.
And when we originally posted it,
It's a long time ago.
it was years ago, and I don't think, for whatever reason, our audience was not as interested in electric stuff at that time. You know, I mean, that video did okay, but
I think in general, now that all 3 of the world's fastest production cars are electric, I think that people are like, oh.
yeah, the perception's changed a lot in
Yeah.
the last few years because there's at the time, like, electric was like, oh yeah, there's Teslas and they're kind of fast, but it wasn't really, there wasn't a lot of performance stuff happening with electric vehicles yet. And now, like, there's a whole division, you know, there's Formula E and there's like electric drift cars and there's electric and
Electric casts of the Le Mans and everything.
right. Yeah. I mean, so
I also
yeah,
think
it's
that
changed a lot.
people have realized you can like electric cars and still like internal combustion
Right.
cars,
You
which
can
is the
have
case
both.
for all of us.
Yeah.
Like, you can like both of them.
Yep. Yeah, it's not a either or. You can do both. They have their places and their strong suits, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, we'll revisit the tank at some point.
I think it would be a cool project. It'd just be like one of those tiny little, what do they call them?
Ripsaw,
Yeah, ripsaw.
a miniature version.
Yeah,
of
it'd be
ripsaw.
like
yeah,
a
I mean that's
little
what
ripsaw.
I
It'd be
envisioned it being.
sick.
Yeah.
There's actually somebody else on, I assume, YouTube and the internet who's built. There's a couple people who've built mini tanks. One of them's very small, like the same scale as ours. And he built like a metal tank body for it, but it's very small, no suspension, and I think it's just powered by like a little like lawnmower style engine, you know, Predator or something like that. Which it looks really cool and it looks like fun. And then there's another guy who built one that's a bathtub, which I really like.
Oh, yeah, that one
That
looks
is so cool.
And he used snowmobile tracks, a snowmobile track on each side. The other one uses like, you know, those little like electric or like powered wheelbarrow things with tracks.
Oh, yeah.
He used like itty bitty little ones like
Oh,
that.
okay.
So it's only like the track length is only like 3
Yeah.
feet long, maybe. But yeah, the bath tank, as he calls it, that thing is very nice.
Ethan hit me with an idea recently that I didn't think was possible for us. I have so much love for our 30-foot 6x6 limousine truck. And Ethan was just kind of casually talking about something that really piqued my interest. And he was like, I don't know if it'll be worth doing the work to actually do it. And I was like, huh? It's so worth it.
Well, I mean, the
Have
first
you told
step.
Will this idea?
I don't know if Will
don't
was
think
here.
I've heard
the
this
the first
idea.
step of the
Very
process to
nice.
make it run again.
What
'cause it
is the
currently
idea?
doesn't.
Yeah.
Tracks on the limo.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard this. That is a very premium idea.
Like, not that I'd never thought of it. I thought of it. Actually, I think I was talking to Clinton. Maybe I was talking to somebody. You know, I was texting somebody, and they were like joking. They're like, "Oh, you should put tracks on it." And like, it's not that I hadn't considered that, but because they mentioned it, I was like, okay, so if we did that, how would we do it? And then I realized that it would actually be relatively simple for a 6-wheel drive vehicle. Because the problem with 6-wheel drive and tracks is that the 2 rear tires are too close together to just bolt on normal, like ATV style add-on tracks. And they make those for even large trucks, like even like bigger than pickup trucks. They make them for service trucks and stuff to get out to like oil fields in the tundra and stuff. The problem is if you have 2 rear axles that are nearly touching, there's not room for 2 sets of tracks. And like, for example, I wanted to put those tracks on the K truck or put tracks on it.
but they're
that'd be
so
fun.
close together.
Well, they're super close together, and you can do over tire tracks. It's super easy. You just put a track around the tire.
Yeah.
But then that's
And
not
then
going to
you
match
just
up
inflate
with
the tires once it's on.
Yeah, or you just unbolt them, put the track around, and then rebolt them. It doesn't need
I
to be
see.
super tight.
but that
it
would
just needs to
match with the gearing of the front.
precisely.
ones.
So the problem is that you could do that for the rear, but the front, you couldn't. I mean, you could build a custom track for the front set that would be geared the same, but a normal ATV bolt-on one, which would just bolt right onto the front of that.
Oh.
They're geared down because their drive wheel that drives the track is only like 11 inches, 12 inches in diameter.
How many
say,
LaCroix cans would you say that is?
if you're stacking them up, like 2 and some change, 2.5.
Just for reference for the people.
So anyway, the point is then that is a gear reduction, and then the front tires would be driving significantly slower than the rears. And there are ways around that, but none that's easy. Like you could put portals on the rear sets and then do over tire tracks.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is they're also taller. Tracks are much taller than tires in terms of like ground clearance. So it'd be all lean.
You'd have
back
some
and
weird squat.
The point is it's not a simple situation, but what I realized is that the rear of the limo doesn't run. It has the same problem, but there's a way around it because the rear axles on that do not move independent of each other. They move as a unit. Both rear axles are solidly bolted together with a big chunk of steel.
Which is why it feels so nice on the highway.
Yeah, right. So, well, that might also have to do with the fact that it probably weighs like 15,000 pounds and it has stock suspension, so it's just kind of floating around.
It's like a leapfrog game that never ends.
Yeah. So, anyway, my idea for the rear is that because they move together, you could use the same drive wheels to drive the track as you would use on the front tracks. So you just get a set of bolt-on tracks for the front, and then you use 2 of those drive wheels on the rear axle, 1 on each axle. And you would still have to build a custom track assembly, and you'd need a long track for it. But it's very solvable, and you'd end up with a situation that would have the same gear ratios and the same ground clearance and all of that. But the rear setup would have to be completely custom built, and I don't even like the track that you'd need to go around both rear tires and have the not suspension, but have the like extensions underneath it to make it tall.
Yeah.
I mean, probably a large, like a 174-inch snowmobile track might be big enough. I don't know.
Like a mountain climbing sled.
Yeah. Well, we have a 174 laying in the scrap pile from that Yamaha RX1.
We could just go out there.
We could mock it up.
Test it out.
Yeah. But the limo would have to first actually run.
And I think around here, at least, if we were in the Midwest or something, a lot easier. But it'd be a hard thing to find a place we could actually take it because the groomers have such steep switchbacks.
Well, what we'd have to do is take it somewhere that's not a groomed snowmobile trail.
Yeah.
That is like, say, going up toward Baldy, that where you guys did the 100-mile challenge.
Yeah, like go up.
It's not high elevation, but that is a road that would be in deep snow, and you could show it off. Most of it's straight enough that the limo could do it. You're right, though. It would be utterly useless. It would be purely
like trying to go up a
100%
hill.
for just entertainment purposes. And that's why I said it's probably not actually worth, because it would take an insane amount of effort still. It's just that its problems are easier to solve than the ones on the K-Truck because it has independent suspension in the rear and they move separately of each other. So
that's what's hard. We have way more ideas than we do time.
Yeah. I mean, there's years of future.
One day.
We don't have to do them all this year.
Yeah. What do you think, Steven? Is it worth it?
I mean, I think it's worth it if we can come up with a reason and like an actual
Can we drive to the North Pole in our limousine? No.
That's a reason.
The North Pole.
Yeah.
Maybe we could offer the people that do work on these oil rigs in the tundra like a ride. Take 20 oil people out there.
We don't have any oil rigs within 1,000 miles of us here, so
1,000-mile challenge in a limo.
Road trip.
Yeah. I mean, it would it'd be an entertaining project, but I don't know that it would be entertaining enough for the time spent. But anyway.
Yeah. The 100-mile challenge was so much fun. I keep thinking of things we can do along those lines, but way more extreme.
The obvious one is the thing we bought things for last week. You said you wanted to talk about this on the podcast.
Wait, I'm not following.
I'm not either.
How are you not following? We bought 2 Humvees. Have you already forgotten?
Okay, that. Yep.
The things we bought last week. Oh, I don't know, the exhaust for the Humvees. We've only been talking about it for 4 years.
Yeah, I don't want to get too excited about it, but I think I already locked in a nice sponsorship for that.
Ooh, nice.
Oh,
Which one?
I'll tell you guys later.
Oh, yeah.
Just in case it doesn't happen, I don't want it on the podcast.
All right.
But yeah, that is super cool.
I'm super looking forward.
That's
to
going to be the 1,500-mile challenge right there.
yeah, with
blow by.
blow by.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
said blow by.
Both Humvees have
Yeah.
noticeable blow by.
So Ethan's been
At idle.
talking about buying Humvees since, I mean, way before Will and Steven were here even.
Yeah.
Like-
I mean, so 3-4 years probably.
Yeah.
I really started talking about it seriously, actually pretty close to 2 years ago, somewhere around, I mean, I'd been talking about it before, but one of my bigger ideas around it and what I started getting more excited about it was around 2 years ago when we went to King of the Hammers the first time, and I came up with the King of the Hummers idea. That was when I
Yeah.
started talking about it really seriously.
Yep.
Yeah, a whole Humvee spec race.
Yep. So we're also, speaking of spec racing, my part of my inspiration for that was Cletus's Freedom 500, which we're going to be doing in a couple of months, where everybody's in the exact same car. You're all in a Crown Vic, and it's a 100 lap race. It's an endurance thing. And I have a deep obsession with Humvees, so my thought was,
This is a genuine passion.
A passion.
This
for
isn't like a
Humvees.
trend that we saw going around that we thought we could get more views with. This
Right.
is true love.
because other people have done it, and we're not remotely inspired by what they did to be like, oh, we should do that. Like you said, we're not trying to hop
Yeah.
on a trend. It's just, we didn't even, for example, Weston did it. And I don't think either of us knew that he did that video until we were already talking about getting Humvees
Yeah.
and started looking into it. And then we're like, oh, this man already did this.
And when we met him, he actually tried to strongly talk us out of doing
Yeah,
it.
he's like, that's a
"That is
terrible
why."
idea. Humvees are so bad.
He was like, this is the worst car ever
Why
made.
do you like Humvees, actually, Ethan? I don't know if
So-
I've ever known.
I mean, there's a lot of reasons. We'll go back to the oldest, most original reason, and that's that there was the first racing game I ever played, video game, on the computer when I was, I don't know, 10 or 12 years old.
This has started
Was-
a long
yes.
time ago.
Yeah.
This is just a little bit of background. Like
Okay.
I didn't, it wasn't, this is the nostalgia part of it. So it was called 4x4 Test Drive Off-Road or something like that.
Sounds like a nice game.
It was good. It was good. But all the cars were stock. They weren't like modified trucks. They were just like the Nissan Xterra was in there, which at the time that was like a brand new thing. And you remember it had that weird offset lumpy thing on the
that is a
tailgate? Like,
weird
as,
car.
as a teenager, I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then, but the best and weirdly, I think one of the first cars you could get in the, or maybe it was, I don't know, that was 20 something years ago. But one of the best cars you could get in the game was a Hummer H1. So the civilian model of Humvee, which is the same thing, just with better paint and interior.
Yeah.
And a hard top. So
And
that's
interior, period.
exactly an interior at all. Yeah, and doors.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
that's classy.
Anyway, that's probably where my love for Humvees started, because it was just a really cool car in the game. But then, jumping forward to like my actual obsession with Humvees, it comes from basically the fact that they're incredibly affordable right now, because the military's auctioning off all of them eventually. I mean, not all at once, but they're getting rid of all of their Humvees because they're getting the new JLTV to replace it. And so they're very, very cheap. But the real reason is because they're independent suspension front and rear, and they're
Oh.
extremely heavy duty, and they do suck. Like everyone I've ever talked to, I mean, my wife's in the Army, like lots of my friends have been in various branches of the military, and they've all driven them. They're like, they're absolutely terrible. But that's because they're built for war. But weirdly, they have a huge amount of potential. They have portal axles from the factory
Pretty
on all four
nice.
corners.
OEM.
Yeah.
Portal axles.
They have independent suspension all the way around, and it's terrible because it's designed to carry like 12 dudes, all of their guns and armor, and be armored itself.
Yeah.
So they have incredibly stiff suspension for carrying all that weight. But if you take out that crap suspension and put in some good coilovers, there's potential for a ton of travel and a really nice ride, while also having an insane amount of ground clearance due to the portals. Like a stock Humvee has like more ground clearance under the center than probably any stock vehicle you could buy, period, because the diffs are all inboard. So I also have a deep obsession with independent suspension and a lifelong vendetta against solid axles. Not in all cases, just in general. Anyway, but the point is, like, I want to take a Humvee and make it what it could be, not what it is. Like, they look really cool, and everybody, like, anybody who's seen one probably is like, wow, look at that. That looks cool. Cause it's like, it's a military.
Yeah, it's different.
Truck.
It's wide.
It's super
and
wide.
cool.
And the wheelbase isn't actually that much wider than a big truck. It's just the
But
body
they are
is
just
super
wide.
wide. Anyway, so yeah, that's my obsession really got out of hand when I realized how affordable they were and that you could buy like 3 of them for the price of a side-by-side. And then that's why I thought of the spec racing thing, because I was like, okay, so like off-road racing is something that'd be really cool to get into, but most versions of it are just completely unattainable. Like the most attainable one is side-by-sides. But you're still starting with a $30,000, $40,000 machine, and then you have to do all the safety modifications to fit your class.
And they cost so much money to keep going. Like, they
Yeah,
break
every time you race, you're
constantly.
breaking axles, shocks, whatever. Like, and that's racing in general. But yeah, that's the most affordable type of off-road racing. I mean, except maybe Class 11 in the Baja, where you're driving a stock Volkswagen Beetle, but that doesn't exactly appeal.
That
should do
appeals
that.
to me.
I know, I was gonna say we should do that actually.
That sounds
that.
very fun.
I mean, you still have to have all the safety modifications and
Oh,
stuff,
like
but
a
you start
cage
with, Class 11 is you take a stock Beetle, old Beetle, obviously not new Beetle.
Can you at least get like different tires?
Yeah. You upgrade. You're allowed to upgrade the tires and like put better shocks and skid plates and light bars and all of that. But
Oh,
you're
that
not
sounds
allowed to.
cheating.
You're not allowed to modify the engine
cheat.
or suspension. Meaning you can't change the geometry. You can put different shocks that are just bolt-on shocks, but you can't add travel. You can't
extend
change
them.
the geometry. You can't bore out the engine. You can't turbo it. So it's basically stock plus safety and
Is there a
durability.
stock plus turbo? I think that's what Will and I
No.
could get behind.
Edwin, I was just about to say, we should create a class called Stock 10, and it's just Chang Lee's that you can like upgrade a little bit. Yeah, that'd be pretty nice.
For the Baja 1000.
Yeah, Baja
That'd be
1000
really nice.
Chang Lee Stock
Unfortunately,
10.
there's a 24-hour time limit for the Baja 1000. If you don't complete it in 24 hours, you don't
Oh.
finish.
How
So-
many batteries would you need? Just have a little pit crew
Quick
to swap your
swaps.
battery.
Hot
just
swap your
bam,
batteries
bam.
every mile.
Yeah, I think so. I think we'd go through a
In the
battery a
sand?
mile in the
Oh,
sand.
it would murder.
Maybe even
yeah.
half a mile.
Well, because you'd be at race speeds, whatever that
Yeah.
means for a Chang Lee.
That's a solid walking pace. That's
You
pretty
could have
fast.
a truck just full of like a couple hundred batteries
following
just
you.
right next to you,
Yep.
like just in low gear without any throttle. Just yeah.
Yeah. So
It's not
anyway,
any different than trying to drive a golf cart across the desert.
it's actually slower than a golf cart.
yeah. Well, it is sealed fully.
It is. It's an enclosed golf cart. That's basically what it is.
It's so beautiful. I got like a tear to my eye. Like I was like not here for a couple days and I just walked in and saw it and I was like, wow.
You even texted me something about that. You're like, just the priorities in life, man. It's like sparkling waters and it's like Chang Lee's.
Yeah, because you sent him a couple of pictures of it for a reference image for the merch.
Yeah.
that we worked
Oh
on.
yeah, that's what it was.
That's what it was. Oh, that's turning out really
Places
good.
you can't even wait. Do you have something you can show us?
Actually I don't.
Oh.
But
Well, then what do you mean it's turning out really good?
he just told me it's turning out good.
Oh.
He hasn't
Oh,
shown me.
well, that doesn't mean anything.
So in someone's opinion, it is turning out pretty good.
Yeah, I have faith that you can't have a picture of that as a reference image and make a bad graphic.
Yeah.
That's true.
But places you can't even walk. Like
That's
when
gonna be
Steven posted on Instagram yesterday, I was like, you know what? I just can't wait until someone can't walk there. And then we go there with the Chang Lee anyways. Like, that waterfall feature we did at Moab? That was like a straight up wall that the Tacoma like squealed tires all the way up.
Like, was it the one of the first big obstacles we did, or I'm trying to think of which.
It's like a thing. It's like straight up. It's completely black from people's tires.
Oh, the one where we drove into like the hole and then back out,
No,
or
not that one. It was like we did this whole trail, got to the top of this thing, and it was just a straight up wall. But
man, why am I not remembering?
I was
Anyway,
thinking of places that I couldn't walk, and that's definitely one of them. I think if you need to get onto like all fours and rock climb, that's not walking.
You're not walking anymore. So if we can
the
just
Chang
crawl
Lee
up it.
could do
so
that.
if we do everything right, it could. But here's the problem: your two goals are mutually exclusive. You want that thing to wheelie,
Yeah.
and you want it to go up that wall in Moab that you can't even walk. Those cancel each other out.
And I can't walk a wheelie.
Well, that's not
that's
my point.
Nice.
My point is, if you wanted to be able to go up things like that, you need all the weight you can get in the front, because that thing
Yeah.
has a wheelbase of like 4 feet long. It's not stable front to back.
But as it sits right now with the wheels like in on the front and the wheels out and big on the back, like it'll probably do wheelie, and then we'll swap the front out.
Yeah, and then the front will get a lot of weight when we do 4-link in the front.
True.
And it needs a bigger winch before we go to Moab anyways.
I was also just being silly. Because I thought it was funny,
Yeah.
you know, wheelies.
And
Places you can't
They
even walk.
do.
Not quite the same goals.
I think doing a wheelie in the Chang Li might be the pinnacle of my life.
Also, we were talking about Humvees. Now, why are we talking about the Chang Li? I wasn't done talking about Humvees.
Well, the thing with the Chang Li is like, you know how people have like midlife crisis, like when they're like 50, because they're like, oh, like, what is a midlife crisis? Like
I didn't follow my dreams.
And I didn't follow my dreams.
So you got to accomplish them really
But then you know
quickly.
how like artists like Justin Bieber like accomplished their dreams so early, and then they're kind of depressed, and that's their midlife crisis, even though he's not 50 yet.
Yeah.
I think when I do a wheelie in the Chang Li, like I might get depressed.
Because you'll never be able to top that.
Like it's like I did it, you know? Like all my dreams.
Well, that's pretty easy to accomplish dream, really, in the grand scheme of things.
Just $1,000 car that can do a wheelie.
Well, it's
Well,
not a $1,000
car anymore.
Also,
Sorry
you
to
can't
break it
actually
to you.
get one for $1,000. You pay that price, and then you have to pay
Yeah.
like quadruple that to get it shipped and imported, and all the fees and the sales tax and the.
That's what I was thinking about. What if we just drove a boat to China, just filled it up with Chang Li's for a couple
And
grand?
then drove it
You'd
back.
still have to do all the importing stuff.
Illegally import the Chang Li's.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a great way to end up indicted and in prison.
That's a great way for you to lose your responsibility, Mustache.
You know
Oh.
how when you're flying back from a place and it says, do you have anything to claim? And you can just say no. It's kind of like that.
They'd ask us, do you have anything to claim? And we'd
No.
say no. And we'd have like
You're in a giant
1,000
boat.
Chang
They're
Li's.
gonna search it.
Oh.
And then you're going to get arrested for smuggling because they're going to assume that if you're trying to smuggle in these terrible cars that are worth nearly nothing, they're going to assume there's something much more valuable in those cars that you're also trying to smuggle. And they're going to disassemble your entire fleet of Chang Li's to find your more valuable substances.
And they're also going to think we're on valuable substances because we'll be so stoked. We'll be going around the beach. These things go places you can't even walk,
They're going to
man.
think that you're on the substances that you're trying to smuggle and that you're trying to throw them off by being excited about it's
I
not
watched
good
a
idea.
great like little YouTube documentary. There's these people that build like kind of cool submarines, like a kind of submarine I want to build.
Oh, no.
And they go across the ocean in them, and they bring things to other countries that they shouldn't be, but their submarines are pretty cool. So we could put like 4 Chang Li's in the submarine, float over, drop them off.
Well, you're
go
talking
back.
about emulating international drug dealers,
Oh.
drug smugglers.
But those submarines are really cool because they don't actually have to work very well, and they kind of float under the water, like just above the surface. Like,
just below the surface. Well,
Really?
yeah. So
it's
I
just
was
to
like,
avoid detection. So that I've also heard about
it's a
this.
submarine I could make.
That
All,
sounds
I was
cool.
thinking simplest design. Take a propane tank, cut a hole in it,
And we know what
lower
the
me
propane
inside.
tank is rated for
Yeah.
pressure.
Just
Do
lower
not
me
encourage this
inside.
man to build a submarine.
Well, like a little one.
Yeah, a little one that floats just below the surface a little bit, you know?
Yeah,
I
so
can
if
cruise
anything
around.
happened, we could just bring you back
Yep,
up and
bring me right out. Yeah.
I mean, submarines can go places you can't even walk.
That's
There
true.
you go.
Turn the Chang Li into a submarine.
Yeah. We can talk about Humvees again.
Yeah.
I just, you know, I just saw it there, and like, if there was a Humvee there, then maybe I could have kept talking about them a little bit longer.
Yeah, well, there will be soon. We don't
Yeah.
know how long the paperwork takes.
Yeah.
They said up to 65 days, so that'd actually be pretty ideal because
be
then
a
we
little
wouldn't be in
warmer.
the middle of winter while we're trying to road trip
Yeah.
them home.
So the first one we got is a 4-door truck,
Yep.
non-turbo,
Uh,
and
Soft top.
yeah,
Yep.
it's. Excuse you, Bjorn.
Bjorn
Ethan's
is
dog just sneezed right in Steven's microphone, or is it right in your face?
No, it was just kind of like between
Okay.
us.
Yeah. So we got this bad girl for $5,100,
Yep.
and it just has a lot of blow by, is what it said.
Well, 3 stars blow by. I don't know what that means.
oh yeah, there was
but-
little stars.
Yeah,
What
I don't
does
think
that
it was 3
even
stars
mean?
next
Oh,
to it. The 3 stars are just like the quality of the thing.
I
that
like
they're-
it. It's like 3 stars. blow by.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's that mean?
That's
So-
why it's not 4 stars, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, that just means that the engine's a little tired, but
Yeah.
we don't plan on keeping the engine in either of them.
Yeah, they're pretty
long-term.
terrible
Yeah.
engines.
Yeah, I
from
mean,
what I've heard.
especially the non. Well, they're all terrible engines. They're 6.5 liter non-turbo diesel V8 that makes like no horsepower. The turbo one makes like a little bit more horsepower, but they're
And
still.
you were saying that, wow, Bjorn.
He wants to be
has
part of the
things to
podcast.
say. He's like,
He has
Humvees.
opinions on the Humvees.
Yeah, he does. He's excited.
This Humvee, though, we bought them in California. That's
Yep.
where the auction was. It's the closest auction to us, kind of. And so we're going to road trip them back. But what we were thinking is this is going to be Grindhard's first LS swap.
I think so. I've thought a lot about it, and I can't think of a better engine to put in there, just in terms of like you're replacing a V8 with another V8 that's way lighter, way more power, and it just seems like the right thing. You know, I mean, we could put something weird in there like a 2JZ or something, but like that would be more difficult to fit, heavier, like more expensive,
Harder to tune.
Yeah, like I've never been like against LSs. It's just that in most cases, LS swapping something is just the obvious normal thing to
Everyone
do.
does
Everyone
LS
it.
swap.
And if
I
we're
mean-
road tripping this bad girl across the country or whatever, we could just go to a regular auto parts store and get a water
Anything.
pump or whatever.
Right, exactly. Parts availability. Yeah, it
Yeah.
just makes sense. I do actually want this thing to be like daily drivable.
Yeah.
I don't know what we'll do with the second one yet. Maybe we'll just acquire more over time and actually do the Humvee spec racing thing.
Your truck is
But-
just going to be like off in a corner of the property. Like, do I still have a truck? I don't know. I've been driving the Humvee, man.
Especially if it has an LS in it, it will make it a
Yeah.
lot.
You know what we ought to do? Will and I LS swap a Chang Li while you LS swap the Humvee.
I think you
Oh
mean Chang Li swap an LS.
That would be terrifying.
the causation runs the opposite direction
Yeah.
there.
I still think we need to do the paintball war, though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so back to that idea a little bit, like that, you know, you were saying doing a wheelie in a Chang Li would complete your life. I don't know that that's quite how I'd phrase it, but I think that if we could actually have an event where we had like, I mean, however many of our own or however it works in terms of who owns the Humvees, but if we could have a whole fleet of Humvees doing an endurance off-road race with all of our friends and, you know, spectators and everything, that would be pretty
Very fun.
like, I do want to build one of them to be like long travel, really good suspension, you know, LS swap, make it nice. But I also think just stock Humvees just bashing into each other on a course where you got jumps and rocks and mud. And then also paintballs. Why not? Because you could just have your passengers like
That could be
paintballing
the
each
like
other.
extra event too. We
Yeah.
could have multiple events.
Yeah, you'd have you'd
Yeah.
have like different challenges and like, you know, you'd have a winch on there so you could winch through obstacles and stuff and whatever. There'd be, you know, there'd be the hill climb competition and the mud bog or what. I don't really care about mud bogging, but like whatever events there are. And then, then there could be a paintball war.
And they're about as affordable as a Crown Vic, which is crazy.
I mean, well, not quite as
I was
affordable,
looking
but-
on the market, like Crown
Really?
Vics used to be super cheap when I was in high school. Now they're like
Well,
really
we could probably
expensive.
thank Cletus for that because he's buying them by the
All
dozen
these
for
kids
his races.
are buying Crown Vics and they're like $5,000 now. So
Oh, okay.
they're
So yeah,
like
they are actually the
$1,200
same.
cars when I was.
They are
That's
actually
wild.
about the same price as
When
a
I was
Humvee.
a boy, they were $1,200.
When you were a wee lad.
yeah.
But yeah, but you just can't come close to what you get for the money with a Humvee. You get
Yeah.
also they have limited slip differentials front and rear, which isn't quite lockers, but it's the next best
Whoa.
thing.
I didn't
know that.
Yeah, limited slip diffs. They have inboard brakes, which is not really a plus because that's just a huge pain to like the Jag that we.
But it is less
but-
rotating mass.
Exactly,
right?
it's less rotational mass, less unsprung mass. I mean, they're just a cool piece of engineering that's like very underappreciated because of what they are, what
Yeah.
they're used for.
The war connotation kind of ruins the
Oh,
vibe.
Remind me to show you guys, or we could put a picture of it up here for people watching. But I saw a slammed Humvee. We were talking about doing that maybe at some point. I've lost interest in it because I've seen a bunch of other people do it, and it looks kind of crap. But there was one that was a 6-wheel
Oh, yes.
slammed Humvee,
I have
2
seen
rear
this
axles. I
one.
don't think it's actually 6-wheel drive. It's probably just rear-wheel drive. But
Yeah.
with a Hellcat in it, that one's very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
And that's also why I don't care about doing it anymore, because that person did so much better of a job and so much more hardcore than I would ever do for a slammed Humvee. I'm like, I can't compete. They
Yeah.
have that title.
Yeah,
That one has a wing, too.
It does have a wing.
It's
It has a
That's
wing.
actually made out of an aircraft wing.
really.
Yes.
Wow. I didn't see how it was built. I just saw it roll out of a parking lot, and
Yep.
I was like, nice.
I didn't watch like how it was built or anything. It just whatever post I saw about it mentioned that it had an aircraft wing for a
Wow.
wing.
That's pretty
But-
dang cool. But I think the fire's dying, so we got to run.
My
Tune
toes
in
are getting
next
cold.
Monday for the Scent and Bent podcast. We have some really good things coming up. You're not going to want to miss it.